Welcome to the Spiritual and Empowerment Living with Tia podcast, a sacred place and resource for spiritually centered women who want to go from the mundane to the magical life, for overcoming fear and doubt, reconnecting with the goddess, understanding messages from spirit, and uncovering your spiritual gifts so you can finally live the life you deserve. Hello, Spiritual Trailblazers, and welcome back to another episode of Spiritual and Empowerment Living with Tia. How are you? Really, how are you? This year has been crazy. Lots of good things happened, lots of bad things happened, and here we are. We are about to wrap up the year. Just a few more days left. We will be ushering in 2021. And we still have work to do. But I wanted to start with asking you, how are you? I feel like not enough people get asked that question. Okay, so feel free. Send me an email. Write on my latest Instagram post. Let me know. How are you? If you're just like, Tia, I'm okay. You know, I may direct you to a YouTube video that has helped me in the past, send you some positive vibes. We might even have a little chat, okay? I'm all about that. Taking that deep breath. I have to tell you, these last few days had me a little wacky. Just with the solar and lunar eclipses and everything. It's just crazy time in the year. So it makes me even more excited to do this top 10 post because it's fun, it's lighthearted. It gives you a chance to revisit some episodes. If you haven't listened to it, you can go check it out. Just all that jazz. Maybe there's something you hear the second time around in these episodes that clicks for you. It's like when you watch a movie and you don't see certain things the first time around. The second time you get the foreshadowing or the Easter egg, stuff like that. So that's what this is about. It's a celebration of the top 10 episodes of this year. It's a celebration of completion. It's a celebration of you as well, because you made these episodes the top 10. So I thank you for that. I thank you for giving me the precious gift of your time. And I just want to share this moment with you by acknowledging what you have done for this podcast. All right. So if you are not connecting with me on Instagram, head over to cosmic_witch_goddess. And I'm also reigniting my Facebook group, Goddess Domain. I'm going to rebrand that too. I'm going to rename it. I'm not sure yet. Goddess will be somewhat in there or somewhat. No, Goddess will be in there. Domain, I'm working on that. So, but the group is there. There are lots of great materials in there. I go live in there as well. So you can connect with me there and other people too. Other people are posting in there and doing their thing. Also, if you haven't, head over to blog.tiamariejohnson.com and check out the latest posts. We have there 3 must-have books for crystal work, Winter Goddess Magic, magical herbs and tea to get you through the winter season, and of course, Yuletide Magic. So let's begin. Starting off with number 10. Drum roll. We have 3 episodes tied for number 10. That's crazy. That's really, really crazy. And as I'm smelling my freshly brewed cup of coffee here, I'm going to take a quick sip. I have to tell you that this is pretty interesting. And the 3 episodes that are tied are pretty interesting within themselves. So the first of this trio, we have episode 252, Confessions of Tia, Just Keep Walking. And what's interesting about this episode is that I was just talking about a confession of when things just doesn't go as planned in business and the growth that happens as a result. And I provided tips on going through things that just doesn't go as planned. And now, while we can, look at that as like a business aspect, of course, there's a personal part to it because it is a confession of Tia. So when we look at something like this, I think to myself, okay, well, why didn't it work? Or why didn't it work the way I wanted to, or at the level I imagined it to be? And there's a lot to be said for that. There are a lot of behind the scenes work that happens. And sometimes you just got to keep walking. And when you're doing that, it could be that you need to let go of some luggage. Like sometimes you just overpacked and you just got to get rid of a few things. I've done that before. I've overpacked. And at the time, I wasn't overpacking, but sometimes I buy things just for a vacation. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I buy, what do you call it, a cover up, or a blouse or flip flops, like just for the vacation. And then I don't even really like it that much. As far as like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll wear it when I go home. It's like, no, it was a vacation thing. Sometimes we solely have outfits just for one thing. And that's what it is sometimes in business and in life. Sometimes it's one thing for that one thing. That time is over and now it's time to keep on walking. And so, I would leave some clothes behind um, in the hotel, or like, just like, hey, I'll leave it, maybe someone will want it. If not, they can throw it in trash. It's, it's, whatever. But yeah, you just got to keep walking sometimes. So that's part of that confession. Now, the next one is episode 264. It's okay to not be okay. Mental exhaustion, needing a time out, and rebounding, which makes sense why this is there, because it really coincides with just keep walking. And when you think about it, sometimes you have to be in that mental space to acknowledge when you need to keep walking, as opposed to just trying to stay in one spot and make something work. And I use the example with my, suitcase and some of the clothes. So I had purchased a few items for some of my family members and of course myself. And when I did that, I just couldn't fit certain clothes in the suitcase. So I figured, well, you know what? These are the clothes that I bought just for this vacation. I'm going to leave them here. Now, I could have spent more time trying to make it fit, trying to make it fit, trying to make it fit. Damn well knowing it's not going to fit. And that's what that episode was about, knowing what fit, what doesn't fit, why something's not working. It doesn't need to work at this capacity. So when we go to it's okay to not be okay, mental exhaustion, we have to be okay with not being okay. We have to understand the scenario. And so many times we get told to, strap up our boobs, put on our big boy, big girl panties, suck it up, you're an adult. And that's all okay. Okay. Like, yeah, sometimes we do need to put on our big boy, big girl panties, but it doesn't apply to every single scenario. And that's what irks me when people say things like, oh, well, we all have problems. No shit, Sherlock. But sometimes it's one too many problems. And what happens when we are told things like that, when we are told to man up, woman up, when we are told, just figure it out, you'll be okay, you're a strong person. What happens? We have a breakdown. Okay? When we reach out for help and that's the response we get, we have a breakdown. Now, it's easy to say go to a therapist. Not everyone can. And I want to acknowledge that not everyone can. Not everyone can afford a therapist. Not everyone has insurance to go to a therapist. Sometimes you have to pay out of pocket. It's just not that simple to just go. So, like I said, I wanted to acknowledge that. So this episode, the description I have here is mental exhaustion, anger, and frustration. Sometimes we need to regroup, reevaluate, and get back in there. That's exactly what I went through. And I'm looking at the date here in August. Okay, so I know this is when I took the 2-month hiatus from the podcast. I didn't know it was going to be 2 months, by the way. So this was probably the first height of 2012, right after George Floyd's murder, right? At the time where it was just like, okay, this pandemic is not going away in April. It's not going away in the summertime. And it ended up being 2 months where I couldn't get in that mental space of content writing. And while I do batch a lot of material, there comes a time where you have to batch more material. And that was the time where I had to batch more material. And I couldn't get in that headspace. And it's just some things you just can't escape, whether it's on your phone, on your news feed, notifications, TV. And there's something that you don't want to skip. You want to acknowledge what's going on, in your backyard. So it was a lot. It was a lot that was going on socially. It was, the pandemic, people, like I said, realizing that, hey, this is not going anywhere. And so about like 2 months, that's when the material ran out. So like a little bit before then, I was going through it, just, seeing things and hearing things. And like I said, once the material ran out, I couldn't get in that headspace to write. And it ended up being 2 months when I got back on track. And that's okay. Not that I meant to abandon you guys for 2 months, but sometimes we just have to take a step back. We have to. And that's one of the reasons why this came up as number 10. You guys understood that. Everyone goes through these times. Sometimes it's 2 days for people, 2 weeks, 2 months. Okay. But we can rebound. And I gave some tips for that, but also to honor the mental exhaustion, honoring needing a timeout and not just being dismissive, not just what's the other term? Spiritual bypassing. And I'm going to have an episode about spiritual bypassing coming up in the next year because that needs to be talked about. That also pisses me off. Okay, so. And the last of this trio, episode 261, Come On Baby, Light My Fire, Beltane special. So that's a play on the Doors. Come on baby, light my fire. It's one of my favorite songs. I just hear it playing in my head now. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm not going to hurt your ears by trying to sing. But this is like the perfect trifecta because I talked about acknowledging the situation. Then I talked about, okay, we acknowledge it. Now there's that point of dealing with our mental health, timeout, rebounding. Now that we rebound, there's light. Beltane. All right. So this is the Festival of Love and Fire, great transitions, and being the best version of yourself. And in that episode, I discussed the importance of the Fire Festival, which takes place on May 1st, and how we deal with transitions in our life and provide a detailed oracle reading. So the cool thing about oracle readings is that it applies no matter the time and space. There are some times where someone would do a reading and I would miss their live, but I would go back because sometimes some readings apply to you. And I would hear one or two things and go, oh, yeah, that definitely applies to me. So go back and listen to that episode, well, all these episodes. But, again, we're all going through transitions, right? The 21st was the darkest day of the year, and now we're celebrating the light. So, I mean, that reading can apply somewhat to some extent now because we are celebrating like the Yule log, right? There's fire with that. We are embracing and celebrating that light is coming back. Okay, there's fire there. So go and check that out and listen to the reading. All right, number 9. Episode 260, Power Moves, the New Moon, Goddess Hecate, and You. So I had to do an episode of this too. The episode when Goddess Hecate appeared in my dream, but when I connect with her, she says, it's not time, it's not time, it's not time. So when the time is right, I will explain in detail the dream I had where she appeared to me. So before she appeared in my dream, I was connecting with her slowly. I just took another sip of my coffee. It's so great. I love the smell of coffee, and it's so warm when you consciously sip it. And So anyway, so I was slowly working with her. Um, and I don't even remember how I discovered her, but as I started to dive more into my witchy nature, which is something I was embracing for years, I just didn't dive fully into it just because of life. It was something that I had to dedicate time towards. And I was really just splitting up my time of learning so much. And with this pandemic, I have extra hours on hand because there are no damn social events going on. So that was like one of the little blessings of this pandemic. So I actually spent more time diving into my witchy nature. And you've been seeing the outcome of that. So I don't even know how long, maybe a few months, maybe a year and a few months. I've been learning about Hecate and things like that. And she appeared to me in my dream. I was like, holy shit. And I was just like, okay, got it. Totally get it. So anyway, when the time is right, I will tell you about that dream. And that's the beautiful thing about goddesses. Sometimes you study and learn about them and you connect with them that way. And other times you study and they appear to you. Like the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So it was one of those things. So goddess Hecate, she is the goddess of crossroads. So think about when you're at a crossroads in life, you got, say, like three choices. You can go straight on this path, you can go left, or you can go right. She is the goddess associated with the new moon, also known as the dark moon. She's associated with the underworld. So she rules like heaven, earth, underworld. So you got to look it up because she rules a lot. She's also the queen of witches. The goddess queen of ghosts, a lot. So anyway, in this episode, I talked about new moon in Taurus, magic, crossroads, starting anew, and goddess of witches. I discussed the impact of the new moon and what it means for us during this time of our lives. I also talk about how we are starting a new cycle in life, understanding what it means to know your true self, and how working with the goddess Hecate can help us during this time of uncertainty. So also, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember these, don't worry. I'm going to list the episodes for you in a description of this episode. I get it because you're probably like me and like, oh my gosh, I need to write these down because I'm definitely not going to remember these numbers. Don't worry, I got you covered. So yeah, with each new moon, there's like new, the word new is in there. There's something new that's happening. There's something new we can work towards. There's something new that we can manifest. Okay. And what Goddess Hecate does, she steps in and, she's like a guiding light. The torches are one of her symbols. So she's leading the way. Okay. So whatever path we choose, she's going to guide us, and she is like the strong, tough love mother, right? So don't expect to get coddled. Whatever choices you make, okay, she's not going to tell you right, wrong, and different. It's more so like, this is what you choose. So here's the path for that. All right. So yeah, check that out because a new moon happens at least once a month. Right. So we can connect with Hecate at least once a month, uh, and to understand ourselves better. So during that dark period, we can look within and understand truly what's going on with us, which is why I understand why this is number 9, because these first 4 episodes are all about internal things, right? Ourselves internally. So it's really understandable how these episodes made it to the list, and understanding transitions, right? These all have been about transitions. Next is number 8, episode 250, working with water goddess Yamana to get into your personal flow and unblock your feminine mysteries with Tanya Gonzalez. She is the number 3 psychic in the world. Yes, she earned that title. She was in a competition, everything. You have to hear her story. She's amazing. And she gave me a reading afterwards. I was just like, whoa, crazy. She gave me a reading and I had a vision as she was giving me the reading. Goddess Imana, she's like, as it states there, she is the water goddess. She also rules several other things. You have to learn about Imana. She is very powerful. I connect with her many times when I'm in the shower, and I'm still learning about her. So this episode, I'm actually pulling out the description for it now. This episode was really fun to do because one, I love having guests on the show because they bring a different perspective, and sometimes I feel like I talk too much. To be honest with you, I know I could get wordy, but anyway, here's the description. So I chat with Tonya to discuss how we can work with water goddess Imana to get into our personal flow, okay, and to unblock our feminine mysteries to lead a fulfilling and nourishing life. All right, and Tonya is a certified spiritual counselor, a world-renowned tarot expert, okay, and she became number 3 psychic in the world. So this now is the time we are transitioning to nurture our lives, to really get into the flow. We made the power move with Goddess Hecate. We worked through our mental, our mental workings. We worked all that inner stuff, and now here we are watering our spiritual garden. We are connecting with the very thing that keeps us alive, water. Well, one of the very things, but we need water to survive. So this is the time where we are working on how we can get into the flow of really designing our lives the way we see fit, the way our truth has to come in, as this flood really of nourishment and love and understanding. And water is also cleansing. So this is the time where we are working with Goddess Imana to really understand how we are ebbing and flowing in our life. Are we stagnant? Is there stagnant water in our life? Is there a part in our spiritual garden that we're just not watering? And by spiritual garden, I mean, our self-love, our self-care, our empowerment, how we treat our bodies, our soul, things we're saying to ourselves, so our mental work, our chakras, our goals, our relationships with friends, money, significant other, self. We have a huge garden, and there are a lot of things that need watering, and there are some things that don't get water. Okay? So this is a time where you might want to even journal. And I tell people, I stress this all the time because I fully understand that journaling is a personal thing. So here's what I tell people. You can have a journal on your phone. And I don't know about Android users, so I can't speak for that. You got to Google it. But for iPhone users, my people, okay? In your notes section, when you're done with the note, right, you type your note, you back out. When you swipe from right to left, you'll see some icons. One, the icon is a lock. You can lock your notes, set a password, so only you can see it. And if you're worried like, oh, but I got the face feature or the thumb feature, depending on what iPhone you have, just make it a number. You don't have to have it be unlocked with the facial feature. Or if you're just like, I don't feel like doing the numbers, then don't let people hold your phone. Now, computer-wise, I know for the HPs of the world, you can also download Microsoft Word for your Apple computer. So you use Microsoft Word. I don't know about Pages, but I know about Microsoft Word. You can right-click a document, and I believe it's in Properties. I haven't done it in a while because, like, now I have an Apple computer, no one touches it. But back in the day when I was in college, I used to have my computer out, and sometimes I would let people, type up something, so they could, finish their assignment, no problem. I would lock my documents, my Word documents. I had an intuitive journal. So what I would do is right-click, and I think it's in Properties, but just right-click and search, to just play around with the buttons there, and you can lock it, and you can set your own password. So I need you to remember that password, and you can lock your Word documents. You don't even have to title it journal. You can title it something else. That sounds really corny and boring, right? Okay. Do that, write it all out, and lock it. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to take I don't know why I'm telling you about how I'm taking so many sips of coffee. I just feel like I had to tell you my coffee journey. I don't know. That's just spirit moving me. Maybe someone needs to hear about this. Man, I drink my coffee black. And lately I've been I didn't do it this time, I just wanted to drink it black, but I put cinnamon in my coffee. And when I sprinkle cinnamon in my coffee, I say, I out loud it to myself, prosperity, abundance, love, romantic love, healing, protection, because those are some of the energies that are corresponded to cinnamon. So I think about that as I'm just dabbing it. And then I, with my spoon, make the Elven star sign. And then I stir it clockwise a few times. And sometimes I even turn my cup clockwise 3 times. Then I let it steep for a little while. And then I consciously take sips where I just think about love, prosperity, healing, heightened intuition. And it just makes me feel so warm and comfortable. And like, I just feel like a surge of energy is great. That's how you make the mundane magical. And maybe I should have an episode about making the mundane magical. And actually, you know what? I'm going to write a note. All right. I just hit pause and you had to hear pencil scribble about making the mundane magical. All right. Let's get back on track. We had a coffee break. We had a little chat break. Let's get to number 7. Number 7 is 249. This is one of my favorite episodes because I love talking about this. 249, bitch, diva, and overachiever. How to deal with resentment when you set up your boundaries and standards. Are you seeing the theme, guys? The collective theme of this podcast that you picked these episodes are showing the transitions here. So now that we are nourishing our lives even more, we're attending our garden, we're connecting with goddesses. Now that we're at this new vibe, this new level, we got to deal with the shit people call us. Bitch, diva, overachiever. And of course, there are more. But this is based off of research I did back in 2014 when I released my first book. And this is under the chapter BARN. It's an acronym I created, which stands for Boundaries, Allies, Resentment, and Networking. And is in part 2 of the book. And I believe this is under the resentment part, probably because I had resentment there. So at the time of my research, one thing I have learned, and this is based on experiences, talking with people, and like I said, this research as a whole. These are the names women get called. Bossy is another one. When women are standing up for themselves, speaking up, setting boundaries, taking up space, requesting things of people that really are not out of line. It's just like when you ask someone to do something, you're a team leader and they don't do it, and you follow up and you call them out for it. It's like, oh, you had to be bitchy about it. They may not say it to you, but you may overhear it, or, gosh, she's a real overachiever over there doing, this and that. No one asked her to do that. Maybe she's thorough. You think about that, and maybe you are not performing up to par. And then, of course, there's the diva. She's high maintenance. I wouldn't want to date a woman with all that makeup on. No one wants to date you lame-o. you like, I'm just going to dial it back because I can go off. But this, I love talking about this because, one, I am so for women showing up as whoever the hell they want to show up as, and if makeup is a thing where, you want to go all out and contour your face on a Tuesday because you feel like it, hey, whatever, there are no limits. I've seen posts, I've seen comments where people, want to put stipulations on things. They would see a wig and like, oh yeah, that wig's nice if you have cancer. No, a wig is nice, period. If a woman wants to wear it, she can wear it, or a guy, whomever. if they feel like they want to wear a wig, that's when they can wear a wig. There are no stipulations on when someone can wear a wig, and maybe someone who has cancer doesn't want to wear a wig. I've seen that too. They're like, you know what? No, I'm gonna get my head buffed, and I'm not wearing a scarf, I'm not wearing a wig. I've seen that. I'm just so tired of it. I see it so many times. Oh yeah, I don't believe in makeup, or yeah, I mean, if you have some blemishes or if you have like a burn mark, yeah, sure you wear. No, you don't get to pick when people wear makeup. The person wearing the makeup gets to pick when they wear makeup. Okay, you don't get to call someone an overachiever because they're thorough. And look, can sometimes people go over and beyond? Yes, but that word gets slapped on people just for being thorough, for being efficient, and someone who is, like I said, not performing up to par. Okay, mediocre. They're telling someone that they're an overachiever. And then the word bitch. And in my book, To Be Goddess, I explained the origin of the word bitch. It's actually a sacred word that got demonized over the years. So I'm not even going to get into all that. I already talked enough about it, but I'm all for helping women deal with resentment when they want to set up boundaries and standards. So here's the description. I discussed the origin of the word bitch and diva, because diva is actually not a bad word either. But bitch is actually a sacred word. So I discussed those two and actionable steps to take when being confronted with name calling, and how to own those words and provide spiritual tip of the week. And okay, so I help you to have witty comebacks. I help you to own these words. Okay. I help you to redefine these words. Okay. And, I'm just going to leave that there because I can go on and on and on. And we still have 6 more to go. So check out episode 249 before I get riled up even more. All right. Episode 251 comes in at number 6. 3 tips for when you feel deflated, unmotivated, and lost, which again makes sense because now that you've been doing so much work, of course you're going to feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, this is like daunting a little bit. Like I gotta keep up with myself here. And and again, once we get to a certain level, some certain things just won't bother us anymore, right? But every now and then someone's going to say something that kind of triggers us. So I can see how this comes in at number 6. All right, so the description for this is: I provide 3 strategies to overcome getting out of a funk and to get back on track. So keeping it simple here, which again makes sense because we're at another level here, right? So we don't have to start at square one per se, right? So 3 simple tips to get you back on the bandwagon when you're just a little bit tapped out. All right, number 5, episode number 245. How to make 2020 the year of you out and unfiltered, which is interesting because if nothing else, this year has giving this year has provided a path for people to show their true colors. So while, let me see, when did this episode come out? This is 245. This episode came out on January 8th. Okay, so January, coronavirus was already here, right? But due to certain powers that be, we, the American people, were not informed properly. We weren't informed really much at all. And so this is interesting because this is before the shitstorm, right? This is before it got declared a pandemic, even though it was already in the States. It was in the States since like November 19th. That's why it's called coronavirus. 19 is on the end because it was here in 2019. And so here we are. I have no clue about this virus already being here. And I'm talking about making this the year where you're out and unfiltered, the year of you. This has been a year where people, and I've talked to so many people. We're in the month of December, right? I have talked to so many people who this year has been their best year. And for other people, this year has been like, oh my God, I am barely getting by. And then there are some people in the middle. Across the board, people have found ways where they step more into themselves, whether they are looking at their circle of friends, their business relationships, their life. They have been really taking a hard look at a lot of things. And so let's look at the description. Let's see, 245. Here we go. All right, I discuss major ways for you to really outdo yourself this year. So I kept the description simple. Now, for me this year, I really outdid myself in certain ways. I have been doing a lot of self-work. And when this portion of the self-work is done, I will do a full episode on it because I want to share with you my journey. Now, I talked about the health crisis I averted in a few episodes back. So if you're just tuning in, go and check it out. Tia's health crisis averted. I've been stepping more into my witchy self. I've been evaluating things and people and finances and all that in my life. I've made some new friends because I've been stepping into my truth and myself. Okay. I've got rid of a lot of mental and emotional blockages this year. It's been a great year in a lot of aspects, but also I had many days where I had my little like mental breakdowns where I'm just like, this is crazy. Where, like I said, I know some people are struggling. I'm like, oh my God. And I've been working even harder to support small business and signing petitions and donating and just doing even more of my part and giving a higher tip to the delivery guy and the stuff like that. It's because I understand, I have empathy, and I'm aware. Okay. And because of that, this year in so many ways has been my year. Right. Now, I acknowledge that personally. All right. This is me and you just, being in this vulnerable space here. I acknowledge that, but I'm not dismissing anyone is what I'm saying. And I have seen that, and I don't stand for that. Okay. So those of you who are going through something this year, those of you, and I talked about this briefly in another episode. We lost a close friend of the family to COVID-19. Okay. So my dear friends know people who had, thank God they survived COVID-19. Our close family friend did not survive COVID-19. I have a friend now, and, some of her family members have COVID, and I'm praying that they are going to make it. And I believe they're going to make it through it. They're pretty healthy, pretty good, but there are some, lingering effects for some people. And I have some business friends survive COVID. Okay. But they're still feeling a little sluggish and things like that. And, so, I mean, again, everyone's impacted at all different levels, but this is where we can figure out how can we be unfiltered. And one of the ways some of the people I know have been unfiltered is they have been speaking up more. They have been saying, hey, I had COVID. This is what's been going on. This is not a game. This is real. Other people have been standing up for other people even more. I think about my friends who do that, who've been on the front lines. It goes on and on and on. Okay. So being unfiltered is a great way of showing up as you are. Now, there are times when I say, oh, that person has no filter. When I say that, I mean, oh, this person is cussing up a storm in front of kids, or, they're not being respectful to elderly. That's what I mean. Because I when I used to go in public and I would see some people just say some things. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we're in front of mixed company. That's someone's mom, and you need to curb your mouth. That's what I mean when I say, oh, that person has no filter. Okay, there's a time and place for everything. But in this case, to show up for your own life, that's what I mean. Be more unfiltered. All right. Number 4. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the top 3. I think it's time for another coffee break. All right. Number 4, episode 247, 7 things that are secretly holding you back in life, guys. Number 5 and number 4 are hand in hand. If you're not living an unfiltered life, you're holding yourself back. Let's look at that. Let's see. What's the description I have here? I provide 7 seemingly innocent things in our lives that are holding us back from living the life we deserve. Ooh. I didn't even list the 7 things here, so you need to check it out. You need to check it out because I have here seemingly innocent things. These are the things that we think really aren't an issue, right? So, for example, and again, I don't remember everything I said in the episode. The episode came out in January, but I'm just going to use an example. So something that's seemingly innocent. Think about something like, oh, I check my bank statement like once a month, bi-weekly. That's kind of innocent, right? It's like, oh, maybe you don't make too many purchases, but what if there was an error in the statement and you're just so casual about checking your bank statement? What if someone, took your card and you're just like, oh, I didn't even think about it because I don't use that card often. Or what if there's something good in there? You got a refund and, whatever. So sometimes it's like kind of innocent where you're just like, no, I'm pretty good with my password. It's a strong password. I don't think anyone can, break that, like hack that or anything like that. But there's a deeper level to that because you're not giving your money attention. Money's energy. So imagine if you're dating someone and you check in on them like bi-weekly, once a month. Like, right? Money is energy. You need to have a relationship with money. You need to be appreciative of the money, check in on the money, overcome your money blocks, which I am working through, overcoming some money blocks. And just when you think you overcome a block, another one appears because you're on a new level, right? Until you get to that level where you're all good. And sometimes we get a little triggered, but we work hard enough that we understand our triggers and we can address that before it becomes a big issue. So what I'm saying is, there are some things that are seemingly innocent, but little things become big things, as we know. So check out that. All right. We're at number 3. That's my little drum roll, by the way. We're at number 3. How to use crystals to manifest like a goddess, which I get. Because now that we focus on all the things for us, and we're working with our sisters, our girlfriends, aka the goddesses, now we're like, all right, let's bring in something external. Crystals. Crystals are great at changing the environment around us. Think about it for a moment. Think about old houses, because new houses don't have this. Old houses and the basement. The stone that are in the house I grew up in. I wish I knew about crystals back then, but it always had like a feeling to it. It wasn't anything bad. It just had like a presence to it. And what I learned is that a lot of old houses, okay, I'm talking like my house was an old Philly home, old South Philly home. The basements usually had like a stone Okay. And I don't even know which stone. I don't even know. But it's like different stone or like a different rock or crystal. Like there was something in there. And these stones hold memories. They hold energy. So think about it. When you go to an historical site, there's an energy there. When you go in a chapel and a hospital, there's energy there. Why? Because people spent so many years praying and praying and praying, or they visit a site and they're putting their energy in there and they've been there for centuries. Same thing with the basement. Things happen in basements. My mom told me this one story about when she was a child. So like in the 70s, like late 60s, early 70s. When she was a child, her neighbor, she would go in her neighbor's basement, play whatever. But she always felt weird, and she would always like run upstairs. Like anytime she had to go in the basement to get something, and you know how some people, their parents are like, "Oh, go in the basement and go bring up the case of soda or something like that," right? So she would always say that she would like hurry up and run upstairs. And what they found out later was that someone was killed in that basement. So it was that energy in the basement, right? It never got cleansed, right? Because again, who's thinking about that? And I don't even know when the person got killed, but let's just say 70s, 60s, 70s time frame, all right? Or probably like 50s, late 50s, 60s. I don't know, but someone was killed in that basement. And so, no one's thinking about cleansing the basement, do people come in, whatever. And so with these old houses, the crystals, the stones are holding these memories. Now, the crystals are where? In the kitchen, because the countertops are what? Quartz. Right? The countertops are what's the other countertops people get? That's of the crystal family. I can't think of it right now. But now the kitchens are going to hold the energy and the memories because people are getting that as a countertop or a black splash. So let's get to it. We are at number 3, 246. Did I pull it up? No. Okay. So how to use crystals to manifest like a goddess. In this episode, I explain simple ways how we can work with crystals and the goddesses to manifest our needs and wants. And I actually listed here. So I have goddesses and their crystals. For Isis, I talk about using pearl. Pearl is just a pearl. It's not a crystal. It's not a stone. It's in its own category. But people say crystal as a general thing. And it's just easier sometimes because, you don't want to go too deep. You just want to get your point across. But it's a pearl. Pearl is a pearl. Freya, carnelian, Kuan Yin, rose quartz, Athena, diamond, Kali, sapphire, Lilith, bronzite, Lakshmi, yellow tourmaline, Aphrodite, moonstone, Pele, opal fire, Ishil, rainbow moonstone. All right. And also that's in my book, To Be Goddess, the list of crystals associated with goddesses. So check out that episode and how you can use crystals to manifest like a goddess. And each one of those goddesses, of course, has their own energy and purpose. So that's why you want to look into that for why you want to work with Freya to manifest what, why you want to work with Isis to manifest what, and so on. Number 2, guys, we're almost at number 1. Whew. Number 2, how to see the goddess within you. Wow. So now we're stepping a little bit back to look within so we can look without. So let's get to this. Episode 253. 253, where are you? I'm just scrolling up. I got my iPad here and I'm pulling up the description. All right, so 253, how to see the goddess within you. In this episode, I discuss how to see the goddesses within to grow and transform, and the transformation that takes place. This is great because while we're on this path, we're going to see a lot of versions of ourselves, and other people are going to see versions of ourselves. And that's okay because we're multifaceted beings. That's what's going to happen. The point is we need to have a home base. And once we have the home base, then when people see these different aspects, we can understand, yeah, well, that's me when I'm around you in this circumstance. Just like you're not going to act the same way around your best friend the way you would around a casual friend or an acquaintance. They're just not going to see that side of you ever. So this is acknowledging how you can see the goddess within, because that's what I do. I help women who want to live their truth and go from feeling invisible and lost to radiant and found through unlocking their goddess energy. Okay. And the reason why invisible and lost is there because so many times we wear a lot of hats: mother, wife, girlfriend, sister, aunt, supervisor, the person who schedules doctor's appointments. We're just like doing all these things. We're Google to some people. Some people think that we are just supposed to give them all the answers and they're not supposed to do any of the work. We're all these things, but we lose our identity in the process many times. And it is in that space that we become invisible and lost to ourselves because we're so busy wearing so many hats that we don't have a home base to go to within. So this is where this episode comes in to remind us that, number one, all women are goddesses. Okay. We just got to turn up the volume on it. And look, some people, they don't want to work with the goddesses. That's fine. You don't have to. But just know that that energy is there, just like with spirituality, just like with our spiritual gifts. Everyone has it. We just have to turn up the volume. And some people turn up the volume more on other gifts because that's what they want to do. For example, I don't want to be a medium. I don't want to turn up the volume on that. I am good. But when I knew when my pop-pop passed away because I smelled his cologne. Now, some people can say, well, that's clear olfactory, clear smelling. Some people can say, well, that's, the dead communicating with you. That's kind of sort of mediumship. I don't want it. Okay. I'm not going to turn the volume up on that. It's at low. It's going to stay at low. But clairvoyant, oh yeah, I'm turning the volume on that. Claircognizant, oh yeah, I'm turning the volume up on that. Other people, they're like, nope, don't want it. I'm good. And they might have little moments where they just know something, and then they leave it alone. But check out episode 253. All right, we're at episode number 1. Ooh, number 1. This is episode 263, Working Through Fear and Doubt with Junaleen. Now, she's a guest I had on my show. And let me pull up her episode. All right. In this episode, I invited the transformational life coach, Junaleen, to discuss how to work through fear and doubt to live the life we deserve. And she also dives into common misconceptions about fear and doubt. Okay, interesting point of view and creating your life. The interesting thing about fear and doubt is it is truly what we make it. There have been many times where I was doubtful about something, like, I don't know. And then I end up doing it and it ended up being better than what I thought. And I even tell you a story about fear. So when I was taking my master classes at the University of Pennsylvania, I was so scared about this one class because I set high expectations for myself and I meet them. Sometimes I even exceed them. But I was just super nervous. I was just like, I don't know if I passed this class. So I did not check the final grade for an entire year. And when I mustered up the courage a year later, guys, not only did I get an A in the class, the professor wanted to use my work for to put in a library as the student, works. I'm like, oh my God. And she wanted my work publicized and then put in the library. Like, now, will anyone read it? I don't know. But she thought that highly of my work. And I'm like, Tia, you got an A in the course, and she wanted to put your paper in the school library to get it like what? But fear for an entire year made me not check the final grade. Is that crazy or is that crazy? And I got an A. What? Like, but that's what fear would do. Fear would have you sitting in one spot, avoiding things, have you think these crazy thoughts, and they're not even real. That's why one of the acronyms is false evidence appearing real. It wasn't even true. I let my imagination go downward. Crazy. So fear will do that to you. Now I'm better with it. I push myself a little harder, and I let those thoughts be fleeting. And I forget who talked about this, but I think, it was Tony Robbins. He said when he has a thought and it's not a positive one, something like this, like it's fearful, it's doubtful, you acknowledge it, and you really just, you acknowledge that it's there, and you also not acknowledge that it's not real. It's something that just pops up because our brains are there to protect us, right? So if we think something's scary, our brain will give us reasons not to engage, right? So we had to look at it like, oh, okay, that's a thought. Okay, bye, thought, bye. Okay, it's not real, right? So I like to go a little bit deeper, where now I look at it as, where did it come from? Now, some people say it doesn't matter, but no, like, where did it come from? And it's really just me wanting to always put my best foot forward, always want to show up, get the work done, maybe do like a little bit extra just to make sure it's good, because that's just me. I like to make sure I cross my T's, dot my I's. I like to be reassured that the work is good, that the work is great. Like, I like that. I like project management. I like seeing things to the end. I like that. And sometimes I don't realize that it's enough, right? So I have to realize, like, it's enough, Tia. And that's where it stems from, me making sure that my work is enough, that I put out my best foot forward. And it's just like, but you always do that. Or at least you do it enough where if you, by one time, it wasn't your best work, you can rectify that, because everyone has an off day, right? So it's one of those things. So I do encourage you to find a source of your fear. We see that in movies, right? Something happens, and what do, they had to go to the source to stop it, right? And I was going to use the Harry Potter reference, but it's sort of like, when Harry's fighting Lord Voldemort, he has to stop it at its source, right? The Death Eaters are nothing really without Lord Voldemort. And I know it's like, Tia, wow, really, Harry Potter reference? It's the first thing that came to mind, guys. Like, it's 2:46 in the morning when I'm recording it, so cut me some slack. But that's with anything. Like, what they say, you got to cut the snake off at the head. You got to go to the source to stop it. So I think the more we dive into the source, we can, and we see this also in horror films too, the source. We got to go to the source. We got to go to where it all started. That's how we can stop it. At least that's how we can understand it, so we can stop it. And that's what I believe. We can understand the source of our fear and doubt. We can stop it. Right? And if another fear and doubt comes up, hey, look, we already stopped one fear and doubt, so we know how to do this. So that's the top 10. I did have some honorable mentions. So let me do a quick recap. Top 10, we have 3 episodes tied, the trifecta for number 10. Episode 252, Confessions of Tia, Just Keep Walking. 264, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, Mental Exhaustion, Needing a Timeout and Rebounding. Episode 261, Come On Baby, Light My Fire, Beltane Special. Episode 260 is number 9, Power Moves, The New Moon, Goddess Hecate in You. Coming in at number 8 is episode 250, Working with the Water Goddess Imana to get into your personal flow, unlock your feminine mysteries with Tonya Gonzalez. Episode 249 is number 7, Bitch, Diva, and Overachiever, How to Deal with Resentment When You Set Up Your Boundaries and Standards. Number 6 is number 251, 3 Tips for When You Feel Deflated, Unmotivated, and Lost. Rounding down, number 5, 245, How to Make 2020 the Year of You Out and Unfiltered, acronym there. Number 4 is episode 247, 7 Things That Are Secretly Holding You Back in Life. Wrapping up the final 3 here, 246, How to Use Crystals to Manifest Like a Goddess. Number 2, episode 253, How to See the Goddess Within You. And number 1, episode 263, Working Through Fear and Doubt with Junaleen. All right, so I want to do some honorable mentions because these episodes came out a little later, but they really soared to the top in their respective month they went live. So while the top 10 are a group of episodes that went live throughout the year, these episodes, like I said, I wanted to be honorable mentions. I had a lot of fun recording these episodes, and they just, again, like I said, soared to the top in their respective month. Like it was just like a slam dunk. So I'm just going to go just a couple because we already been talking a lot. So I wanted to say episode 281. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, that one too, but what's the other one? Okay, we'll just start with 281. Bubble Bubble, Toil and Trouble, taking care of stress on the double. So November 4th was National Stress Awareness Day. And I talked about how we can reduce and keep stress at bay with a touch of magic, easy to implement practices, and a bit of shadow work. I'm all about keeping stress at bay because it's so easy for us to get stressed, right? And our body reacts to that, right? It's that flight or fight that comes in because we're stressed. So our body's like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? Do we fight this or is it flight? Okay, like and depending on who you are, you can overeat, you can get really emotional, not eat, still get emotional. It's a lot. So I really enjoyed that episode, and it really did very well in November because, pandemic fatigue. This was this right after the election? This was, November 3rd. I think November 3rd was the election day. So this is November 4th. So, it was just a lot. And I was really glad. I was happy to do that episode because I knew it was needed. I was feeling it. And so it's great to have tips for stress. And sometimes we have to leave one tip alone and get a new tip because sometimes what worked in the past doesn't work now. And it passed me a week, 2 weeks. So that was a very cool episode to do. And you guys really loved that episode. So I was happy to help reduce the stress factor. The other one is 284, Hexing and Other Misconceptions with the Glamour witch, Alexis Jackson. I met her fairly recently and we just really clicked. She's a great content creator. Her content is simply amazing. And she had recently done an Instagram live with another witch, the Witch of Southern Light, Marshall, and they talked about hexes and misconceptions. And I thought, oh my God, that's amazing because there are a lot of misconceptions about it. And especially when you're on a spiritual path, I see this all too often where people act like you're not supposed to have boundaries. You're not supposed to get angry. You're not supposed to protect yourself. You're just supposed to be love and light. And it's just interesting to me how when you say you're spiritual, that people start to just try to put you in a cookie cutter frame where they think you're just supposed to be this nice person all the time, which really is a welcome mat, right? You're not supposed to have certain emotions. You're not supposed to want to protect yourself. And when you say you're a witch, then people are like, oh my God, like, okay, so what are you doing? It's all these negative connotations or assumptions or labels that people put on people, and it's just not true. So there's nothing wrong with protecting yourself, and hexing is highly misunderstood. So that was a fun episode to do. You guys obviously loved it because it shot to the roof in November, even beating out episode 181, and then like it went back and forth. 81 was number one, and then that was number one. So it was an awesome episode, and it was 2 hours long. So I was nervous at first. I'm like, will they listen for the whole 2 hours? Clearly, you guys loved it. So it was a great conversation with Alexis. She's awesome. Go check her out. You will not be disappointed. Gosh, there's so many I love. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up with this final one because I'm going to wrap up describing this final one, and I'm going to encourage you guys to listen to a couple other ones because, like, I just like enjoy so many of these episodes. All right. So I have a bonus episode called The Ghostly Circus. And that's episode 278. And it came out in October. And the reason why I really like this episode is because and there were fire performers there. Fire is an element I strongly identify with. I know as a Virgo, that's an earth energy, but wait, is Leo a fire? I gotta double check. Hold on, let me double check something real quick. Okay, I just want to double check. So Leo is a fire sign. I have a lot of Leo in my chart. I'm actually only a little bit of Virgo. Virgo is my sun sign. But if you were to look at my entire astrological chart, there is more Leo. Leo's a fire sign. So anyway, I identify a lot with the fire element. Like that is my element. If there was ever a time where someone were to say, hey, Tia, we are going to give you powers of the elements and you got to pick two, I would pick fire and air. I love air so much. Love air. And I love fire. And so at the Ghostly Circus, they were fire performers. And I just felt so in tune, just watching them just like trigger something in me. And so what I was explaining in that episode is to find your people, right? Your element people, your spiritual people, because that's really nurturing to your soul. So if you are a water person, figure out, excuse me, where you can go, where you can be more in tune with water, or if someone's doing a performance, figure that out. Or maybe, with, gosh, there aren't really, so that circus was outdoors. It was at Fort Mifflin here in Philly. And Fort Mifflin is an old fort. Like it was there before, oh God, what war? It was built in like 1771 or something like that. It's an old fort in Philly. So it has a lot of history there. But say you went to like a Cirque du Soleil performance, they're like up in the air and stuff like that. So maybe those are your people, in the air sign or something like that. I don't know. What I'm saying is whenever you can, find something that nurtures your soul. We are all connected. And we are definitely connected to different elements, more so than others. So, earthly people connected more with the earth element. Trust me, you're going to find some things that you're more drawn to than others. Okay. So that's why I really enjoy talking about that episode, because I went there because I'm like, oh, snap, Ghostly Circus, Halloween-ish time. This is perfect. And then I saw the fire. I'm like, oh my God, my fire people. And you can check that out on is it still up on my Instagram? I think I posted, you have to scroll back a little bit, but I posted some videos of the fire performers. All right, I'm going to mention this like two more and then I'm going to wrap it up. So 277, Which Way Magazine with Tonya Brown. That has been something I wanted to do for so long. Like I love that magazine. It's a digital magazine you can get. It arrives in your email box once a month. Tonya was so amazing. She's down in New Orleans. I cannot wait to like one day meet her personally. I always wanted to go to New Orleans, obviously. But it was just such a great insight on how she created the magazine. It was a natural thing. She didn't initially wanted to go and create a magazine. It just happened that way. And she's an awesome person, and I love the magazine. And then finally, 275, Menstrual Mysticism. And you guys really loved this episode too in October. Menstrual Divination, Blood Magic, and Breaking Menstrual Taboos with Laura Carmody. She's going to come back on a podcast next year. Okay, me and her have some things in the works. She's amazing. I followed her on Instagram, and I loved her content about blood, menstrual cycles, blood magic. I learned so much about menstrual cycles that, of course, they did not tell you in school or like doctors or whatever. But our menstrual blood is sacred. It is powerful, and it can be used for blood magic. And it's like we learn more about ourselves when we understand our menstrual cycles. We are not meant to have cramps. And I'm going to tell you this too. The more I dove into my spirituality, the more I dove into my witchy nature, I haven't had period cramps since I don't know when. We weren't meant to have it. And this is what I'm saying. The energies around us and what we are told really does become our reality. And that's the same, because it's true. It's like when we tell ourselves something over and over again, if you look in the mirror and you constantly tell yourself that you're ugly, that you're not smart, that you're never going to make it because you're not this and you're not that, that becomes your reality. So, of course, over the years, like with many things associated with women, it got demonized. So that energy got internalized. And as we know, a lot of things get passed down from generation to generation on a cellular level. So yes, you are carrying the issues of your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother, but we can break those cycles. That's the beauty of it. And so we talked about that. We talked about what is actually in our blood. Okay, we talked about the power of it. Was deep. So please go check out that website, especially if you are someone who menstruates. It is powerful, and she will be back on the podcast. Like I said, we got some great things coming your way, and I cannot wait to work with her in 2021. All right. That's what I'm going to wrap up with this, like for real, for real. All right. So check out the top 10. I got a list for you in the description of this episode. Check out my honorable mentions. You're not going to be disappointed. We got one more episode coming your way this month. I'm looking at my notes now. Let me see. Yeah, Teoscope, full moon. The full moon's on the 30th, depending on where you are in the world. So yeah, that's going to wrap up 2020. And then I'm going to do my annual 2021 reading in January. So look out for that. I'm not going to tell you the rest in January. Just look out for Teoscope full moon on the 30th. And then in January, you got the Happy New Year 2021 reading. I will say this. 2021 equals number 5, and 5 means change. So, I mean, there's some big changes coming in 2021. I'll leave it at that. All right, Spiritual Trailblazer, I'm going to drink some more coffee. I am rooting for you as always. I'm sending you so many blessings. Remember to be kind to yourself. Until next time. As always, Spiritual Trailblazer, thank you for tuning in. Do make sure to stop by and visit me at tiamariejohnson.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Last but not least, be kind to yourself. I'm rooting for you, and I'm sending you so many blessings. Until next time.